right, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs here for a little bit. Look, obviously coming off their bye, heading into a massive Monday night matchup just a few short days away. But one of the things that's become clear as we worked our way more than halfway through the NFL season is that the Chiefs once again are one of, if not the top contenders in football. But what's really interesting about the Chiefs is that this season they proved themselves to be the opposite of popular wisdom. One of the things you always hear from the pundits is that turnover, in terms of roster turnover, in terms of getting new players, a lot of changes, usually results in a lot of bad football. And generally that's the case. But the Chiefs are pulling off something completely remarkable. And the Ringer had a great piece highlighting it. We pulled a little image from it. Mize, if you want to throw up the report, this is again courtesy of the Ringer did this research. And this is highlighting the Chiefs defensive players who played the most snaps against the Miami Dolphins in their last game. Here's what they noticed. And according to the report, here's every Chiefs defensive player who took at least 10 snaps against the Dolphins last Sunday. The writer, highlighted every player that was acquired in the past 2 off seasons. As you can see, that is essentially their entire defense. Once again, we hear about roster turnover in the NFL being the bane of a quality team's existence. What the Chiefs have done in terms of how they've gone out and gotten players, whether it's through the draft, whether it's adding veterans into the defensive fold, and maintained not just a passable unit, but a really good unit. This Chiefs defense, in a lot of ways, has carried this team through the first 9 games. I think it's remarkable, and I don't think there's a real historical precedent. Roster turnover usually leads to dynasties falling off. The Dallas Cowboys in the mid-1990s, are a great example of this. It happened to the 49ers in the 90s as well. In fact, the Patriots for about 5 or 6 years there between 2007 and 2014 were really struggling, with the exception of a few magical runs, deep playoff runs, because there was so much roster turnover. The Chiefs here are doing something incredible here. They've actually broken the rule in the fact that roster turnover doesn't mean failure. I think it's a lot of credit to Veach for the players he's gotten into the fold, and I think it's a lot of credit to Reed and Coach Spagnuolo for what they've done on the defensive side of the ball, developing these guys as well. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this and this entire situation with the Chiefs, but obviously Kansas City fans, massive matchup coming up, prime time, rematch of the Super Bowl against Philadelphia Eagles. Now's your chance in the comment section below. Give us your prediction of this game. It's going to be a great game. It's the game of the year, Chiefs, Eagles. Give us what you think the final score will be in the comment section below. But Miles, what do you think of the Chiefs and everything they've done this season, despite going through all these changes with their roster?
Yeah, Nick, it's shown a short period of time has really given the Chiefs a lot of success in the defensive side of things. You look at the graphic, we see all these players were acquired within the last 2 off seasons, whether it's through the draft, through free agency, or whatever the case may be. But that is the case here, Nick. This is a team that is able to just completely get something and build it from the ground up. And now they have a good few, at least 2-3 more years with every single one of these players on this roster that are so young. And I think that's the key here is the Chiefs have built something in this defense that can last for the future. Because that's the thing that we've heard about with Patrick Mahomes. Oh, his contract's so big. How is he going to be able to sustain all of these players? You know, if we're being frank, if we're being curt about it, Chris Jones on this defense, probably not long for this world. He's going to want a huge contract. We already saw the negotiations. There's so many key players all around the ball here. This is a defense that's built to last for at least 2 to 3 more years with the Chiefs. And this is all stuff they've done through the draft. And I say 2 to 3 more years. That's just 2 to 3 more years with these players. But we've already seen the trend. We've already seen the success through the draft that they're able to do. So who's to say they cannot keep compounding this through the draft, getting better and better players, and even making it even better than it is right now? So I think the Chiefs are really on to something as far as the defensive side of the ball goes. And I think that this is something that they had to get right, and it seems like they just keep getting it right every single time. I'm especially really happy with how they turned around this secondary. The secondary was really just something. There was a waning Tyrann Mathieu. Daniel Sorensen was in there. We remember he was getting picked on every single play. People were beating him over the top for touchdowns almost every time. But now this is an elite secondary. This is a secondary full of playmakers. It's just a really, really big turnaround, and something that everyone always talks about Patrick Mahomes in the offense. Not as many people are talking about the defense, but I think it's something that really need to be noticed.
You have to, because if you look at right now the top defensive rankings going into week 9, you have the Ravens and the Browns. The Browns are number 1, Ravens number 2. Look, we all know those are really good defenses. The Dallas Cowboys at number 3, of course, when you have Micah Parsons there, you're going to be a really good defense. But the 4th best defense right now in the NFL is the Kansas City Chiefs. When you have this much roster turnover, according to common NFL wisdom, you're going to be terrible, right? You're going to be bottom 5. You're not supposed to be top 5. This is historic stuff. And I know we get caught up in what's going on with Travis Kelce. He's obviously going to be headed to the Hall of Fame. We know Patrick Mahomes is an all-time great. We know Andy Reid's just an offensive genius, right? There's a lot of things about this Chiefs offense and all the stars they bring into the fold as to why they're special and why we should appreciate them. But I think what both Brett Veach has done and what Coach Steve Spagnuolo and his staff has done on the defensive side of the ball, especially this season, maybe even more impressive. Because this kind of turnover, it's rookies, it's veterans, it's cast-offs, it's first-round picks, it's middle-round picks, it's front 7, it's secondary, like you alluded to. There is literally no part of this defense that hasn't gone over a complete and total massive overhaul of the past 2 seasons. And yet they are playing at such a high level. And they've played some good competition, right? They play the Detroit Lions, right? They've played a lot of good football teams. They shut down the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? This is a very potent offense led by Trevor Lawrence. This is a really, really good defensive football team. This is going to be a team that right now, if you look at how it's all structured, like you alluded to, even though Mahomes has that massive deal, even though that's going to weigh on salary cap situation, there's no reason to think this isn't the beginning of a 2 or 3 year deep title run. Because if you got basically a championship level defense, top 4 defense in football right now, with a quarterback that's got in an offense that's got so much money allocated to it. Like, this isn't supposed to happen. That's what keeps blowing my mind when I look at the Chiefs roster. What they are doing right now on the defensive side of the ball isn't supposed to work. You're supposed to go what happened with like the Indianapolis Colts, Peyton Manning. They threw all the money at Manning in the offense. Their defense was terrible for a long time. The Saints with Drew Brees, right? They had the same kind of problem. You're not supposed to be able to throw all your money on the offensive side of the ball and still have a great defense. The only reason the Patriots were as good as they were is because Brady was taking massive pay cuts, right? They're so cheap on the offensive side of the ball, they could spend money on defense. The Chiefs are still spending money on offense, but they're so good at evaluating talent and they're so good at developing them and putting them in positions to be successful that they're winning with those guys on defense as well. This is ridiculous kind of stuff from the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is why they're the top contender again this year and probably will be for the next 2, 3, 5, I don't know, 10 years. What they're doing is absolutely remarkable.